things in our times. There was a Vietnam War going on, and lots of protests about the war. You had the hippies and yippies, and they were doing their thing, and you had the Black Panthers, and they were doing their thing, and you had the civil rights movement going on. Back in those days, I have to say I wasn't really into Martin Luther King per se. It was much more radical. I really identified much more with the Black Panthers. I was very militant. Martin Luther King was sort of wimpy to me. I believed if people attack you, you have a right to attack back. That was my philosophy. So I was kind of involved in these things. I would wear the uniform of the day. If you're a Black Panther, black leather jacket, the beret, the bullet, 50 caliber thing, and the power fist, and the free Huey, free Angela. That was the whole thing. You had to have the full uniform. So, and I believe strongly in that. I wasn't officially a Black Panther because I was even more of an idealist, I think, then than I am now. There were like two things in the back of the paper that I didn't quite believe in. They said all Black folks should not have to be in the military, and I thought, well, okay, it's kind of our country too, so we should probably get in the military. They said all Black people should be released from prison, and I knew a few brothers I would not want to meet on the street. So I'm like all, no exceptions. But other than that, I was down with the program. So, and then the 60s, I always said the 60s ended like in the early 70s. In the early 70s, I went off to college. And I'd been a pretty good student, got a lot of A's in high school, went to Bronx High School of Science, and went on to Harvard. My mother was very proud of me, my son, the Harvard man. And I figured, okay, great, this is, my kind of people here. And I got there and trying to study, but something happened. Something in that transition between high school and college, something went out of sync some way. I would sit down to study and I would find myself falling asleep. So I'd say, okay, I guess I'm sleepy. I would go to bed. I'd be wide awake. I'm saying, what's going on? I can't figure out what's happening to me. I've been an A student all my life, and now I'm barely studying. I can't get my act together. And I had a roommate who was doing Kundalini and meditation, and I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. You kind of get inside yourself and figure out what's going on. I've been raised in a family. My mother was a psychiatric social worker. My stepfather, was a professor of psychology at NYU. And I just wasn't really into that whole Freud thing, I felt like the best person to understand what's going on in me is me. So I figured I would try doing that. So I started into that. I was doing these things. I was reading, while other people were reading their engineering books and math books, I was reading Dharmapada and Tao Te Ching and all these things. So on one hand, I was trying to discover. It wasn't necessarily helping me in my academic work that much, but I was on this adventure. I knew there was something here. I knew I had belief in the concept, but at the same token, I needed to survive in school. And I remember one day, I had a call from my mother, and I was talking to her and I was saying, look, Mom, don't worry. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to hang in there no matter what. Don't worry. And I remember hanging up the phone. And as I hung up the phone, there was this thing like this opening in the top of my head and this descent. It was like a flood, like crystallized water or something that just flooded straight through my system from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. And like it just wiped out everything, all the anxiety, all the concerns, the fears, everything was like wiped clean. And there was a silence. And in that silence, there was this sense of knowing, this absolute sense of knowing. There was no voices or anything. It was just this sense of knowing that I had inner work to do. And I couldn't do it at school. That I had to leave the university and embark on this adventure, as it were. And I didn't know if I would ever come back or anything, but I knew I had to leave. And within a few days, I packed up, set out, and it's the things that I learned in that adventure that I'd like to talk a little about. this talk today, which I call Adventures in Consciousness. So in this talk, I'd like to address some of those big fundamental questions of life, because that's what I was dealing with back then. Like, what is my purpose? What is my meaning in life? What am I here for? You know, how do you answer a question like that? And then there's this other related question, which is, who am I? Who am that I? You know, we know ourselves, we know our gender, we know our ethnicity, we know all these other things, but who am I? Do you really know the answer to that? And these two are inextricably linked. You know, your meaning and purpose and who you are kind of go together. How do we answer those kinds of questions? You know, it's like we're not born with a manual that says, here's where you are, here's who you are, and here's what to do. They say life is this instrument you learn how to play while performing. But I like to think that life isn't cruel. We have teachers. And of course, our first teachers in life are our parents. They teach us the basic rules of the game, you know, right and wrong and good and evil, and they help shape our identity. And as we grow up, we go out into the world, we go to school, we have other teachers, our friends and connections and people that we run into. They're teachers, we learn things from them. Life experiences, you know, run, fall, scratch your knees, get up, start again. All these things are shaping us, molding us, teaching us things, helping us to refine or understand the answers to these questions. But you gotta ask yourself, is that the only way to understand who we are? Either secondhand knowledge, what somebody tells you, or life experiences and things like that. Is there a more direct way? There is. And I think to understand that direct way, we can take some help from yet another teacher. And I think that teacher is nature itself, because nature speaks, nature communicates. We just need to have the ability to understand what nature is telling us. When you look at this picture, ask yourself, what do you feel? Not just what you see or think, but what do you feel? You feel some of the beauty, the harmony. It's almost like you can put yourself in there and you can breathe that morning air. There's